It's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink and listen to the story Into the Shadows. The city was quiet in the early hours, a deceptive calm that masked the chaos lurking in every alleyway and collapsed building. The safe zone had held, but Alpha was patient, and patience in the hive meant strategy. We had survived its attacks, but now it was time to take the fight to it. Mara gathered the survivors in the reinforced room. The maps were spread across the table, red markers indicating the hive's suspected nodes and patrol routes. "We hit them tonight," she said, voice steady but intense. "We reclaim a sector, we disrupt their coordination, we force Alpha to react on our terms." I studied the layout. The hive had established multiple control points throughout the city, rooftops, collapsed buildings, and underground access points. Partial hosts patrolled methodically, guided by Alpha's intelligence. Each strike had to be precise, fast, and adaptable. "Split into teams," Mara instructed. "Team A will create diversions, draw the partials away. Team B will infiltrate the central node and disable their coordination. Team C, my team, will secure exits and handle contingencies." The survivors nodded, tension visible, but determination stronger. Every face reflected exhaustion and fear, but also the resolve to fight, not just survive. I joined Team B. Our objective, the central node, an abandoned industrial complex Alpha, had repurposed as a hive coordination point. Mara's diversions would lure partials to the east, opening a narrow window to strike. The streets were empty, or appeared to be. Shadows shifted in broken windows, distant hums pulsed through walls, and the faint metallic tang of decay hung in the air. Every step was calculated, every sound was amplified in the tense silence. We reached the industrial complex. Rusted gates and broken windows offered minimal see. Over, but it was enough. Team B moved silently, scaling a collapsed wall to gain a vantage point. Partial hosts patrolled below, jerky, coordinated, and aware of even the slightest disturbance. "Wait for the signal," I whispered. Mara's team would set the diversions, drawing the swarm east and creating the gap we needed. A muffled explosion echoed in the distance, a diversion. Partial hosts shifted, moving away from our entry point, responding instinctively to the lure. The hum of Alpha intensified, as if aware of our intrusion, but too late to stop it. We slipped inside the complex, moving through shadows and debris. Machinery long abandoned creaked under our weight, broken tools scattered across the floor. The air was thick with dust and a metallic scent. Every step brought us closer to the hive's nerve center. Through a shattered window, I saw the heart of the hive, a room filled with synchronized partials, moving with eerie precision. Alpha's intelligence pulsed through them, a silent conductor orchestrating chaos. This was the moment our strike would either succeed or become with the other members of Team B. "We go in now?" I whispered. The hum was deafening in its intensity, a living reminder that Alpha was aware, calculating, and ready. The hum of the hive reverberated through the industrial complex, a low, pulsating vibration that pressed against our chests. Each beat was a reminder Alpha was aware. It was anticipating, calculating, and every second we hesitated gave it time to adapt. "Stay quiet," I whispered, moving alongside the other members of Team B. Shadows stretched long across the debris-strewn floor, and our footsteps echoed louder than intended. Every creak of metal, every shattered pipe, sounded like an alarm. We reached a half-collapsed stairwell leading to the central node. Through the jagged hole in the wall, I could see the synchronized partials, the hive's enforcers, moving in eerie, deliberate formations. Alpha's presence pulsed through them, orchestrating each jerky step, each twitch of muscle, each vacant gaze. "2 guards at the entrance," muttered Elena, gripping a crowbar like an extension of her arm. "We take them silently, or the whole swarm will know we're here." I nodded. "Cover my left. Move on my signal." One by one, we neutralized the guards, muffling sounds as best we could. The hum intensified as if Alpha sensed the disturbance, yet it did not yet react aggressively. Its patience was calculated. It waited for us to make a mistake. Inside the central node, the air was thick and metallic, with the faint, oily scent of the hive. Broken machinery and makeshift equipment lined the walls, wires snaking across the floor like living tendrils. Screens flickered, displaying partials and the areas they patrolled, a real-time map of the city's infected zones. "This is it," I whispered. "We disrupt this, and we disrupt Alpha's control." Eleanor and I moved toward the main console. Team B's other members stayed on perimeter, covering entrances. Every second was tense. One wrong move, one misstep, and Alpha's swarm would descend faster than we could react. I reached the console and began disabling connections. Sparks flew as wires were ripped from panels. Screens flickered and went dark. Partial hosts in the adjacent room began reacting, jerking in place, sensing the disruption. Alpha's hum changed, an unsettling, faster rhythm, almost like agitation. Suddenly, a loud crash behind us. One of the partials, faster than expected, had bypassed our perimeter. It lunged with jerky precision, but Elena struck it down with the crowbar. Another partial followed, and the room erupted into chaos. "Hold positions!" I shouted, swinging a metal pipe. Every strike had to count. Improvised weapons met the coordinated assault of the hive's core enforcers. The hum grew louder, more intense, almost deafening. Alpha was adapting in real time, coordinating the swarm with a new urgency. The room trembled as if the building itself were alive, a reflection of the hive's neural network, pulsing in resonance. Elena gasped, slashing at a partial host. "We can't hold this long. We have to finish the console." I dove toward the main panel, ripping out the final wires. Screens went dark. Partial hosts froze mid-motion. Jerky movements stilled, and the hum slowed. Alpha had been temporarily disrupted. "Now!" I shouted. Team B retreated to the stairwell as alarms inside the building echoed. The hive's reaction was delayed, but inevitable. Partial hosts began regrouping, moving with renewed significant victory. Alpha's central node was disrupted, forcing it to adapt. But the danger was far from over. The hive was learning faster than ever, and its patience was relentless. Breathing heavily, I looked at the other members of Team B. "We've won this round, but the fight isn't over. Alpha knows we're coming now, and it will not wait for us to strike again." Outside, the city remained a maze of shadows, ruins, and predators. But for the first time, we had forced Alpha to react to us, shifting the balance, even if just for a moment. The moment we left the central node, the building trembled. Alpha's hum returned, louder, sharper, almost a scream vibrating through the walls. Partial hosts poured in from every corridor, faster and more coordinated than before. The disruption had forced it to adapt, but it was already learning. "Move! Fall back!" I shouted. Team B sprinted down the stairwell, adrenaline fueling every step. Behind us, partials crashed through doors, jerking in synchronized patterns, their vacant eyes locked on us. Outside, the streets had changed. Alpha's scouts, once scattered, were now organized into flanking formations. They moved with terrifying precision, cutting off escape routes, herding survivors toward predictable paths. Mara's diversions had succeeded initially, but the hive was adapting faster than anticipated. Smoke bombs, loud bangs, and debris had drawn some of the swarm away, but now Alpha had recalibrated, integrating our tactics into its response. "We have to split," I yelled. "Two groups, create separate vectors, force hesitation." The survivors split into smaller teams, weaving through alleyways and debris-strewn streets. Partial hosts pursued, but the diversion and split created confusion. Every second counted. Hesitation meant survival. We reached a narrow corridor lined with crumbling walls. Alpha's hums vibrated through the concrete, an omnipresent reminder of its intelligence. Partial hosts lunged from both ends. I swung a pipe, striking one mid-lunge, while another collided with a barricade we had improvised moments earlier. Elena and I pressed forward, hearts hammering. The central node's disruption had bought us time, but the hive's adaptation was relentless. Each host that fell appeared to transfer knowledge to the others. Movements became faster, reactions sharper. "Keep moving, don't let them corner us," I shouted. The group scrambled over debris, through shattered storefronts, past abandoned vehicles. Every step was a fight against both the environment and the hive's intelligence. Finally, we reached a semi-secured plaza, a temporary haven. The survivors collapsed against walls, gasping for breath, wounds stinging, nerves frayed. Alpha's hum had slowed outside, as if assessing, recalibrating its next strike. Mara appeared, signaling us to regroup. "We've disrupted their coordination, but they're learning. Alpha will retaliate in force soon. We need a longer-term plan if we want to survive the city." I nodded, realizing the brutal reality. Survival wasn't just about reacting. It was about anticipating, predicting, and outthinking an intelligence that could adapt faster than humans could respond. Outside, the city remained fractured, silent but deadly, a living labyrinth of predators and shadows. But inside the survivors' temporary haven, we drew a breath. The offensive had succeeded in shaking the hive, giving us hope. But Alpha's patience and adaptability meant the fight had only just begun. The survivors huddled in the semi-secured plaza, the air thick with smoke, sweat, and the metallic tang of fear. Every face was marked by exhaustion, but determination burned in their eyes. The disruption of Alpha's central node had bought us time, yet we all knew it was Empori. The hive would adapt on a battered table, red lines marking patrols, green arrows showing our infiltration paths, and yellow circles highlighting Alpha's perceived weak points. We've seen how it reacts, we've forced hesitation, but tonight we go further. We don't just disrupt, we take control of a key sector. I traced a route with my finger. The east sector, mostly collapsed buildings and narrow alleys. Partial hosts are concentrated around the main avenues. If we cut off their access points and control the high ground, we can force a bottleneck. Elena added, "We can use the abandoned metro tunnels beneath the sector. Partial hosts rarely enter them, they follow the surface patterns. That gives us stealth and the element of surprise." Mara nodded. "Exactly, but we need a coordinated strike. Teams must move simultaneously. Diversions will pull the swarm north and south. Team B infiltrates from below. Team C holds key vantage points and triggers the traps." I felt a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just survival anymore, it was war. Every step, every maneuver, every decision carried the weight of life and death. Alpha had intelligence, but so did we, and tonight we would test it. As the survivors prepared, I checked weapons, reinforced barricades in the temporary plaza, and ran through contingencies. Every team member knew the stakes. One misstep, one moment of hesitation, and the hive would consume us. Night fell. Shadows stretched long, obscuring movements, but also offering cover. The hum outside pulsed. Alpha was aware of our intentions, but not yet fully informed. We slipped into the abandoned metro tunnels, damp and echoing, the air thick with decay. Team B moved silently, tracing the mapped route. Dust and broken debris made each step hazardous, but the narrow passages offered protection. We could hear faint sounds from above, partial hosts patrolling, responding. G to our diversions. Mara's team initiated the diversions on the surface, setting off loud bangs, smoke, and debris collapses. Partial hosts surged toward the noise, leaving the sector largely exposed. The hive adapted, but the gaps were enough for our infiltration. I signaled the group to halt as we reached a junction beneath the sector. From this vantage, we could see the buildings above, corridors littered with partial hosts, some jerking in place, others coordinating patrols. The disruption from above had slowed Alpha's adjustments, giving us a critical window. "This is it," I whispered. We move simultaneously. Team B infiltrates, Team C activates traps, and diversions keep the hive off balance. Precision and speed. Every second counts. The plan was risky but calculated. For the first time, we weren't just reacting to Alpha, we were dictating the battlefield, forcing it to respond to our moves. The air was tense, every heartbeat echoing in the tunnels. I glanced at the survivors, eyes met, nods exchanged, silent agreements passing between us. We had endured, we had survived, and now we were about a shadowy labyrinth, echoing with our cautious footsteps. Above, the diversions worked flawlessly. Partial hosts had moved toward the noises Mara's team created, leaving the east sector relatively unguarded. "Move out," I whispered, signaling Team B forward. Each step was deliberate, the metallic clink of pipes and debris threatening to betray our presence. We reached a stairwell leading to a rooftop overlooking the sector. The city above was a war zone. Fires burned in shattered buildings, smoke curling into the night sky. Partial hosts patrolled in disjointed yet coordinated patterns, their jerky movements precise and unsettling. Alpha's intelligence had adapted somewhat, but the gaps created by our diversions were enough for a strike. Elena peered over the edge. "We've got about 30 seconds before they adjust." I nodded. "Trigger the traps on my mark." We hit them from multiple angles. Team C, already in position on rooftops, released nets, swinging weights, and makeshift tripwires. Partial hosts stumbled, fell, and became disoriented. From below, Team B emerged from shadows, striking at key points and neutralizing hosts silently. The hum pulsed, rising in intensity, a signal that Alpha was aware. Partial hosts regrouped, moving faster, coordinating, reacting to the disruption. But we had momentum, and every second of hesitation from them widened our advantage. A group of partials charged a barricade. I swung a pipe, striking the nearest one, while Elena lobbed a smoke canister to disorient the others. The sounds of battle echoed through the sector, a mixture of human grit and inhuman shrieks. "Keep the pressure," I shouted. "Push them back, force them to learn on our terms." Hours blurred into a tense struggle. The survivors adapted on the fly, exploiting weak points in Alpha's coordination, improvising weapons and maneuvers. Eve, Rye, trap. Every diversion, every strike chipped away at the hive's control. At one point, a partial host lunged from a rooftop, missing me by inches. I countered with a makeshift spear, impaling it just enough to slow its momentum. Above, Mara's team triggered another diversion, drawing reinforcements away and keeping Alpha off balance. By dawn, the east sector was under our temporary control. Partial hosts had been neutralized, barricades reinforced, and the area cleared enough to secure a foothold. The hum outside had quieted slightly, a subtle acknowledgement that Alpha had been forced to adapt once again. We regrouped, bloodied, bruised but alive. The survivors' morale surged. For the first time, we had dictated the battlefield instead of reacting to it. But the reality was harsh. We had forced Alpha to respond, but it would not forget. The Hive's intelligence was relentless, and our victory was only temporary. Mara surveyed the sector. We've gained ground, but this is just the beginning. Alpha will learn from tonight. We need to anticipate its next moves, adapt faster, and strike smarter. I nodded, understanding the truth. Survival was no longer passive. The city was a chessboard, and Alpha was a master player. We had taken the first move, but the game was far from over. Our foothold in the east sector was deceptive. The sun had barely risen when the first signs of Alpha's retaliation appeared. Partial hosts emerged from shattered buildings and alleyways beyond our barricades, moving with coordinated precision. The Hive had learned. "Positions!" Mara shouted, rallying the survivors. "They've adapted. Expect flanking maneuvers and synchronized attacks. Hold the line!" From the rooftops, Team C manned vantage points, hurling makeshift explosives and swinging nets to disrupt the first waves. Below, Team B reinforced barricades and fired improvised projectiles. Despite our preparations, the Hive's attacks were relentless, testing every weakness. I ducked as a partial host crashed through a barricade, its jerky limbs striking like a machine. Elena and I neutralized it, but two more were coming. The hum pulsed violently, Alpha coordinating its forces, anticipating our responses. Every move we made seemed calculated against us. "They've learned our trap," Elena panted. We need improvisation. Fast!" I scanned the rooftops and alleyways, identifying gaps in the Partials' formations. "Use the side corridor. Force them into a bottleneck," I shouted. Survivors reacted instantly, herding the Hive's forces into the narrow streets we had prepared. Makeshift spikes, swinging debris, and hidden nets tore through the Partials' ranks. Alpha's adaptation was evident. Partial hosts that fell were replaced almost immediately by others, moving more intelligently, avoiding repeated hazards. Its learning curve was staggering, but we had momentum and ingenuity on our side. Hours of brutal engagement blurred together. Every street corner, every collapsed building became a battlefield. Partial hosts surged, we countered, traps reset, and strategies improvised. Exhaustion gnawed at us, but survival instinct and the need to hold the sector drove every action. Finally, after a grueling day, the Hive's forces retreated temporarily. The east sector was battered but secure. Survivors collapsed against walls, bloodied and exhausted. The hum had subsided slightly, a warning pulse, not a roar. Alpha had tested us, and we had held. Mara approached, her face grim but resolute. "This counterstrike shows their intelligence. They learn fast, adapt faster, but we've gained crucial insight. We now know their limits, patterns, and vulnerabilities. This knowledge is our advantage for the next offensive." I nodded, surveying the devastated sector. "We've held the line, but Alpha is relentless. It will strike again, harder and smarter. We need to prepare for the long game. Every resource, every strategy, every advantage counts." The survivors moved quietly, repairing barricades, tending wounds, and consolidating defenses. Outside, the city remained fractured, shadows shifting in ruined streets. The hive was out there, learning, adapting, and watching. But for now, we had survived. We had pushed back against an intelligence that seemed unstoppable. And that, just for this moment, was enough. The night settled over the east sector like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Fires burned low in scattered ruins, casting flickering shadows across barricades and rubble-strewn streets. The survivors moved cautiously, repairing defenses, reinforcing barricades, and sharing whatever rations remained. Mara gathered us in the semi-secured plaza. The map lay open, illuminated by a single flickering lantern. Alpha has adapted. It's aggressive, coordinated, and relentless, she said, tracing routes and choke points. But it has limits. Patterns emerge even in intelligence this adaptive. We strike at those limits, and we can turn the tide. I leaned over the table, studying the marked nodes. The central node, it's vulnerable now, weakened from you. Our disruption, and its counterstrike. If we hit it again, more decisively, we can fracture the hive's coordination and force the industrial complex. The hum of Alpha's hive pulsed faintly through the walls above. Partial hosts patrolled methodically, but our timing and stealth gave us the advantage. "Move in," Mara whispered over the comms. The gates to the central node lay ahead, reinforced but not invincible. We slipped inside, shadows among shadows, every step deliberate. Inside, the hive's enforcers were caught off guard, unprepared for a simultaneous, coordinated strike from multiple vectors. Team B moved swiftly, disabling patrols silently. The hum grew louder, more erratic. Alpha was aware, but it could not fully anticipate our assault. Elena and I reached the main console. Wires hung loose from previous disruptions. I began overriding the system, sending false signals through the hive's network, causing confusion and miscommunication among partial hosts. Above, Team C triggered traps, collapsing corridors and igniting diversions. Partial hosts surged toward the chaos, leaving key areas unguarded. Alpha's adaptive intelligence was being outmaneuvered, forced into reactive, chaotic movements. The battle was intense and chaotic, every second a fight for survival. Partial hosts lunged with jerky precision, but the survivors' coordination, timing, and understanding of the hive's limits gave us the advantage. By dawn, the central node was fractured, partially destroyed, and the hive's coordination disrupted. Partial hosts scattered, some returning to the chaos of the city, others immobilized or destroyed. The hum of Alpha weakened, a faint, almost pained vibration, a sign that the hive had been damaged. Mara surveyed the scene. "This is the turning point. We've fractured Alpha's network, but it's not over. It will recover and it will adapt. We need to consolidate gains, fortify positions, and prepare for the next phase." I exhaled exhaustion and relief, me ixing. The city was still a dangerous labyrinth, but for the first time we had forced the hive to respond to us. The tide had shifted, if only slightly, in our favor. The first light of dawn filtered through the smoke-stained skies of the east sector. Fires burned low, embers drifting into the morning air. The streets were littered with debris, overturned barricades, and the remains of partial hosts neutralized during the night's assault. The city was a graveyard of chaos, but for the survivors, it was a hard-won victory. We gathered in the semi-secured plaza, our bodies exhausted, clothes torn and bloodied, but spirits cautiously buoyed. Mara walked among us, her eyes scanning faces for morale and determination. "The central node is fractured," she said, her voice calm but carrying weight. "Alpha's coordination is disrupted and its adaptive advantage has been slowed. This is our foothold. I surveyed the sector from a rooftop vantage, the ruined streets below silent except for the occasional shuffle of a displaced partial host or scavenger. The temporary calm was deceptive, but it offered time to regroup and fortify. Elena approached, wiping sweat and grime from her brow. We held the line, disrupted the hive, and survived the counterattack. It's more than I thought possible. Mara nodded. Yes, but this is only the beginning. Alpha will recover. It will adapt. We've gained knowledge, a tactical advantage, and a foothold. But the fight is far from over. We must reinforce, strategize, and prepare for its inevitable retaliation. Team B worked tirelessly, repairing barricades, setting traps, and reinforcing weak points in the sector. Team C secured rooftops and vantage points, monitoring patrol patterns and mapping potential weak zones. Every survivor contributed, every effort vital. I checked the main console in the central node. Our disruption had caused temporary chaos in Alpha's network. The hum that had dominated the city was quieter now, intermittent and irregular. For the first time, the hive seemed. We forced Alpha to respond on our terms tonight. That's something it rarely experiences. Use this time wisely. Train, fortify, learn. Knowledge is now our deadliest weapon. I nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. The city was still a battlefield, but we had carved out a zone of control, a base from which we could plan further operations, further strikes, further survival. As the sun rose higher, casting a pale light over the shattered sector, I felt a fragile sense of hope. We had endured the hive's intelligence, fought through relentless adaptation, and emerged alive. The city was broken, the streets haunted, and Alpha was still out there. But for the first time, the fight felt winnable. And in that fleeting moment of victory, amidst the smoke, debris, and silence, we prepared ourselves. The war for the city had shifted. The offensive had begun. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams.